I did not study photography. I started when I was 24, 25. I studied business and worked in the bank. So I had like a whole other life. I was a creative person inside of me, but I was not, bold enough to try and to do it. And I come from a family that teach you, okay, you have to have a stable job and you have both feet on earth. At this time I moved to Paris and I met like many creative people, and those people really helped me to believe in myself and to try. So I started as an assistant. I just studied to learn from other photographers, and you have to find your message, you have to find yourself. Working in the bank, I was not myself, and I wanted to be myself, to be happy about who I become, and just, and if I can make this my job, that's even better. So I think that's the best lesson that I received and that I could give, is just stick to who you are, follow your instinct.
Hi, I'm Aubrey Whipley, and this is episode 3 of Jack Chats. Today we are joined by Charly Gosp. He is a fashion and still life photographer. Charly, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
So one thing I really love about your work is that playful nature that feels kind of nostalgic. It reminds me of sort of elements from my childhood. Like, for example, I saw for your J.W. Anderson shoot, you had posted in a slide with some stills from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and I loved seeing that connection there and that influence in the work. Some of your compositions, even the way they're layered, reminds me of I Spy. So I'm curious, do you sort of use memory as a reference to inform your work?
Yes, I think in my work it's been, I think, the way I got most of my inspiration. I grew up like late 80s and 90s, so I just put this little bit of a souvenir from this Tim Burton movie that you watch when you were a child, or from this song that you remember from the Spice Girls. I think it's also nice to help people to remember memories from the childhood. So memories and humor inspire me the most.
That's interesting. I was actually going to ask you about that as well, is the way you kind of incorporate humor into your work. I really love that. It's very refreshing because I feel like a lot of photography can kind of tend to take itself a little seriously. Why is humor something you feel like is important to include?
I feel like I have to put this in my work because I want my work to be as close as who I am, inside. But I feel most like I just want to entertain people with my photographs. And yeah, it's something that maybe not a lot of people dare to do. Everything is very serious. And I feel like now, especially after the pandemic and it's tough times, people, they really want to laugh.
Yeah, totally, and I can absolutely see that in your work, and I completely agree that there is a need for some balance. People need to be lifted up sometimes, and I think it's interesting that your work does have this very optimistic tone to it, and you do have that sort of duality where a lot of it is very fun and very lighthearted and even humorous, but there's sometimes a message as well, like when you wrote on the Fendi bag, Stop War.
It's funny you talk about it because it's actually the first time that I really realized that I was doing something that's a little bit political. The bag comes with so it came in my mind, just it's playful already object. I'm just gonna go for it. But then I was like, do something funny. I was, going for I don't know, sun and clouds and like a child. And then I was like, the war had just started. Maybe I just should go a little bit further and just try to maybe just for the first time, just give a message.
Yeah, absolutely. I like how you mentioned that juxtaposition. The bag already is kind of playful, but the message is something more mature. It kind of makes you consider how a child would view something like war. It was saying something, but still not in a dark tone, not in a heavy tone, in an optimistic tone. I do see a lot of elements of juxtaposition in general in your work, like the Coperni shoot, where you had high fashion bags surrounded by empty cans and trash. It makes the bag feel more wearable and kind of brings it down to earth a little bit. On that note of making a bit of a statement, do you ever feel like you get a little bit of pushback from clients? You maybe have to sell a pitch a little bit to stand behind your own creative vision?
It's interesting because usually I feel like clients, they come to me because they like my editorial work. So they like the funkiness, they like the funny. And of course for the job, they usually ask me to do like simple background, not too much props. I have to compromise in a way. But some clients, they really allow me to go very far, like J.W. Anderson. They really push forward the idea. They actually ask me to go even more crazy. Some clients you can, some clients you can't. I work with this set designer in Paris quite often, David de Quevedo. We had this shoot for a magazine. I'm not going to mention it. I'm going to tell you why. This shoot went all wrong, but the pictures are so right. This magazine asked us for a series. It was a Dior special, accessorized, still life. And I think, David and we came up with this idea of just ready-made objects. That's also what I like in my job. It's also using objects as something else, not what they're supposed to be used. So we were just thinking about creating new objects with those old tech device. Okay, the bag was like this, and it looks like a little camera, so maybe we could have a little screen that come like this, like an old VHS camera. Just the idea of misappropriation, this idea of it became something else because you add something else on it, and it's just a whole different story. And at the end, the magazine just told us that we went too far and that we didn't see the product enough, we didn't recognize the product, and that they didn't publish it. I mean, we kept it for ourselves, and I'm happy with this. You know, it's and a lot of clients they show me what they like, and they show me a lot of this series. So it's just revenge.
Karma.
Yeah.
I love that. That's so cool. You really do have such a distinct voice. Definitely where the kind of best work is born is when, you know, you don't have as many limitations on it and you can kind of just push through with the creativity. So you just wrapped up your Tiffany shoot today here at Jack. I know you mentioned it's your first time on a major job like this in New York, and just want to ask, you know, how was your experience?
I really enjoy shooting here. The team is great. It's funny because I shoot in the studio in Paris a lot, most of the time actually, and it's called Studio Jacques.
No way.
Yeah, it's like home.
Meant to be.
Yeah, exactly. It was meant to be. So I remember this place. I will remember this place because, yeah, first job in New York, and it's just like my friends in the studio in Paris, Jacques.
Totally. Well, we can't wait to have you back. Thank you again for taking the time today. It's been so awesome talking to you, and thank you all for tuning in.
Thank you.
Make sure to follow us on Instagram at Jack Studios and subscribe to our YouTube to see more featured artists, and we will see you next time.